Welcome back to Saathwic Infotech GitHub series, basically a day 3 session. Okay, so what are we going to do in this particular session? Okay, let me give you a quick walkthrough. Okay, let me close this out. Don't save. Okay, let me open a new notepad. Okay, it's my older work. Okay, fine. So what are we going to do in this new session? Basically, we are going to create a new repository. Okay, how to create and commit the files in the GitHub itself. So first we need to learn about how are we going to do the stuffs in GitHub in the UI itself. Second thing, how to clone and add and clone comma add and commit comma commit and push the file to the remote. Finally, understand how things works together. Okay, basically this is very important part to understand the backend, how Git interacts to the server and how it actually pushes the code to the remote repository and everything on that upfront. Okay, before that, give me a minute. Let me quickly do few things. Okay, uh, don't get confused with this. It's all like my prior work. I just want to clear off those stuffs so that I can explain you all these things again. Because I know we have set up like SSH in the server too. So remove hyphen rf dot SSH. Okay, great. I think we should be good enough now. Okay, so if you guys were following my previous session, you should have created a free GitHub account, or if you have any other GitHub account already created by watching other YouTube channels, yeah, of course you can very well use that too. Okay, let me show you a few things, right? Okay, let us create a new repository. Okay, so when you click on a new repository, it comes like this. Okay, my owner is Saathwic Infotech, and the repository name is going to be our GitHub series. Okay, okay, I have created a new repository called GitHub series. Okay, this repo will be used for entire GitHub series videos. Okay, so now what type of repository it is, whether I am going to create it as a private for my private individual use, or I am going to share this with the public, whoever can log in without the credentials. So for now I am going to share it with the public so that everyone, either the persons whoever watching my video, can even access this GitHub series repo. Okay, private again is going to ask you for the credentials or authorized tokens to access it. Okay, the second step, it asks whether you need a readme file. I am saying, yeah, better to add, right? So yeah, readme file is general file where you will add like, okay, what is this repo is all about, how to use it and everything. So just let's add that too. And do I need to follow any template for git ignore file, which I am not going to do, because like for certain tools and technologies, the git ignore file has its own template. So if you scroll down, you will know that, right? For example, if I am working on any action script or Android related programming or Python or anything, it has a default git ignore scripts. For us it doesn't make sense, because like we are going to do something, maybe I will select something for random. Okay, let me select the Python. Okay, whether the project, so you know, right, GitHub stores the complete project code and everything for a versioning purpose, right? So if I want to, if someone is going to download this and use this project, what type of license is applicable to them? Okay, that's the thing which you want to select. As ours is like open and it's like free of use, I don't want to select anything, or you need to understand what is each license is all about and select that appropriately. Okay, which is like completely out of the scopes. If you want to learn more, you can always use these links to learn. Okay, and the final thing is about the main part. Okay, this is the default branch. Okay, whenever you create any repository, a repository will be associated to a default branch. Okay, that's the branch. It They named it as main. Okay, again, in your real-time organizational environment, the name can be different. The default branch name can be different. It can be master, they call it as development protected, anything. Okay. If you want to change those settings, yes, you can very well go and change the settings now. But as part of this project, I don't want to do anything, and it's going to be the main as my default branch. Let me create the repository. Okay. So now you see here, right? So the readme file got added and git ignore file got added. Let us see what is there in the git ignore file so that you will understand like what is the things which we should not commit to Python, the best practices. It gives you the template. Okay. See, these are the files will not get committed to your git repository. Okay, if any files with this with the extension egg info, the files under this directory which is like building files. Okay, and also these files. See, these files are nothing but your unit test files. So all these files will not be committed. Even though you commit your changes to the repo, all these files will not be committed. Okay. And again, you might expect, okay, an interview question on git ignore. The interviewer might ask you like, okay, hey, tell me something like, okay, if I want to ignore specific set of files to be committed to my repository, so how do I do about it? So basically your answer should be, okay, I will be using my git ignore file to configure that, okay, with some extension so that it doesn't push that particular extension files to the repository even if I accidentally commit them. Okay. So that's the main purpose of git ignore file. Okay. There will be use cases you can explain, right? For example, like, okay, if my project is about streaming, if I am working on any media respective client, okay, they will have like videos, images and everything in my local for testing. But ideally I don't want to push those to my git repo because it might increase the space utilization of my repository. Okay, due to which like we will always in the real time we will always use our content based delivery network, but while testing in our on-prem we will use our local copy of it. So I don't want to push it to the remote, so that's where like I added all my uh, star.mp4 or star.mpeg or star.jpeg files to not get committed to the repository. So your git ignore file will have those informations. Okay, in our case what I am going to do, I'm going to delete everything and I will let me select this and I will delete. Okay, before that I need to edit it, right? Okay. Okay, I have edited it. I am just going to say for naming purposes config commit changes updated git ignore to skip any config file. So what I am going to do here, so I am just edited this file and I am saying uh, please save this file to my main branch, or I can save it, it's a different branch and then I will raise a pull request, but for now I am not going to do. I am directly committing to my main branch, okay, which is not even a best practice, but I am doing it right now for understanding. Okay, so you see, right, how did I did it? So for example, if I want to add any new file to the git, okay, let's try to add a new file, create a new file. So okay, manually added file. So in general we don't do this in real time. Okay, this is for sample and for your learning from the basic I am explaining now. Okay, whatever we do, like we just create a repository and add the default git ignore and readme files. Nothing much we will do manually in the git repo, like creating the files here. Okay, it has to come in from your servers to repository. Okay, so if you see now, I have added one file. Okay, this file I have created from here only, right? In the GitHub, directly in the GitHub I created and committed it, and it shows that okay, the file is added. So it's all fine. Now, so in general, right? In general, in the real time, how things works, right? You will be in the server somewhere. Okay, let me show you clear. Okay, let's go with the agenda too. Okay, you have created a new repository now. Okay, now we are going to how to create and commit your files in the GitHub itself. So basically we are doing a file creation and committed this file. Okay, now what is our next step? How to clone, add and commit the files from the local to the remote. So how do I clone this? Basically, let me go to my account, lsif-ltr. There is a command called git clone. Okay, basically what git clone does is it's going to clone your remote repository in the local server. Means that the entire folder here, the GitHub series folder, will be created on your server machine. Okay. From then onwards, whatever you do the changes or whatever the scripts you add here and everything, that get saved to your remote. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so when I go to GitHub series, there is something called code. Underneath there is something like SSH. Okay, okay, there is something like HTTPS too. Okay, but HTTPS we generally don't recommend. Okay, maybe there will be a question to you also in the interview section. Okay, how do you clone your repository based on HTTPS connection? Yes, I can just go here and select the HTTPS and copy this link, but you have to be very much sure that okay, you have an authentication token generated. Okay, if token is not generated, you cannot use HTTPS. Okay, I will tell you how to generate this token in our upcoming sessions, not now, because it will be like again a confusing process which I don't want to share it now. In general, in most of the cases, we recommend team to use SSH. Okay, so let us copy this. Git clone, I am going to give this. Okay, now guys, you have to think about it now. So if I want to connect to any remote server based on an SSH, there should be some prerequisite which needs to be completed. Okay, what are this prerequisite? Key generation. Okay, do I have a key generation now? No. Let's see what happened now, right? Let me give this. Yes. Okay, it says GitHub warning permanently added, but permission denied. Why? Because the key generation has not happened. And also I mentioned GitHub cannot work with username and password. So that's the reason it did not even ask you the password. Okay, how do generate key? We have already seen SSH-keygen. If folks watching for the first time and not aware how to use SSH and how SSH works in the server, we have covered all in detail in our earlier Unix series session. I would recommend you guys to watch that first and follow up here so that you better understand all these details. Okay, so I'm generating the key. I'm going a little bit fast. cd SSH. So we know that now I need to copy the public key. So I have copied the public key. So you know, right? So basically like when I copy the key, when I do between the servers, so from one server to the other server, I will place it in the authorized key file. Okay, whereas now we are working with UI. It's an user interface. So where do I place it out, right? So basically for every user, okay, you will have something like settings. In the settings, you will see something like SSH and GPG key. So here you go and click on new SSH key where you give some title. Okay, I will select DevOps user and paste this key and give add SSH. Now our SSH keys got added. Let us try to clone that again. Okay, I'm going to clone it again. Yep. Now the cloning got successful. You did not get any authentication error or anything, right? So the clone got successful. How do I validate? Let me see. Yep. As I mentioned, you see a GitHub series folder here. You will see all the code which were present there here as well. Okay. To GitHub series. You see, you have a readme md, manual added file, and git ignore. So git ignore is an hidden file. That's why you are not seeing it here. The other two files you are seeing. If you want to do git ignore also, you can click on this like this. Okay. So again, you are seeing something like dot git as an extra. What is that dot git? Okay. Let me explain you, right? So with the help of dot git, okay, if this particular folder, the GitHub series folder will act as your local repository. Okay, the folder wherever you have a .git, it implies that it's your Git local repository. Okay, this particular folder will have certain configuration information which tells Git whenever you execute certain commands, it just check that particular piece of configuration and act accordingly. Okay, what is that particular information? Let us explore that too. So whenever I did a git clone, I have used some URL. Okay, that is a URL which is used for communicating from my local server to your remote GitHub. Okay, so those information should have been saved here. So if you see the remote origin, so you are using this URL. So whatever the branch I am accessing now, it's all my main branch. Okay, great. Now let me come back out of Git. What I am going to do? Let me try to push some file from local to the remote. So what should I do now? First, let me check git status. Okay, let me briefly elaborate about what does git status command does, right? So whenever you give git status, okay, the git, okay, will compare your local code, okay, with your remote, okay, with the GitHub. Basically the connectivity happens and check whether is there any changes there or not. Okay, okay, sorry. Basically when you give git status, it first connect and check with your local branch. Okay, means when I say local, it's your data which is present inside your git directory. It compares that data present in the git directory and with your remote GitHub. Okay, there will be two ways of communication. Okay, first when I give git status, it compare the local code to .git. So basically .git saves the changes in a compressed format. So it compares your local code to the .git and then it compares this with remote. Let's see how does it happen, right? Okay, now I did git status. Okay, if you want to understand this piece very clearly, you need to understand the things I'm going to explain. So now it says you are on branch main. Okay, how does git status know I am in branch main? With the help of config file which is present in .git directory. Okay, now it says your branch is up to date with origin main. What does it mean? Your branch is up to date with origin main. Okay, now origin main is nothing but your root. It's a remote. It says whatever the file which is present in the local, it's also the same files which is present in remote. And it says nothing to commit. You are clean. Now let us do something crazy. I'm going to create script added from server. Okay. Now let us execute the same statement now. See, I have done nothing. I just created a one file and placed in that directory. And now, okay, let me show that too. I just created a file called script added from server and placed in this directory. So when I place in this directory, it compares the files in the local with the file content which is present in .git. Let's see what happens. The first phase of things will happen now. Okay. Now you have to understand this, guys. If you are not understanding, you are not going to, I will say like, okay, you will be facing a little bit of trouble. in fixing this issue which is going to happen in your real time. Okay, now, so you will understand how this works, whatever I explained here, right? So that's where. Now, it says, again, it says you are on branch main. And it says your branch is up to date with main. Okay, what does it mean? It says your local change. This one it says now. Your local changes present in the Git and the local changes in, sorry, your files in the remote are appropriate. There is no changes I see. Okay, this is the first step it's doing. It's comparing the Git with your remote now. Okay, and then this step happens. Comparing the local to your local Git. Okay, it says I see some new file that is called untracked file which is present in this folder. It's asking you whether I want to track this or not. If you want me to track, you need to execute this command. See how user friendly is, right? Git. It gives you the command also. You don't want to mug up or keep the commands handy or taking down any notes or documentation, nothing. You have to read the output and understand what it's saying. It's more than enough. Okay, now I am going to do git add. Okay, I have added it. Let's again execute git status and see what's happening. Okay, great. Now again it says you are on the branch main, you are up to date with remote. Means that still the content present inside the .git and the content present in the remote, it's all same. I don't see any changes, but there are some files you kept in stage location. Means you have added something but you are not committed. Okay, basically Git operates in this way. Okay, whenever you add any file, it stores into a temporary location, which usually we call it a stage. Okay, if you want to commit once, okay, this is a temporary location. The files will be committed permanently only when you execute a commit command. Means file from stage moves to .git content. Basically the files within the .git get updated. Nothing much. Okay. So now we are in the stage. So that's why it says your branch is up to date with the origin because the files within .git has not got changed. Okay. Now let me do this. Okay. See again it says if you have accidentally added it, you will can use this command to remove it from the stage. Okay. But I want to commit it, right? So I'm just going to do commit -m is for message. Committing my first file from server. Let us give the file name as this. Great. Now you see some messages, right? Main something. This is the commit ID, and it says like committing this, that, blah 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 blah. Okay. Basically, these messages are nothing but how your files getting saved within your .git directory. Okay. So now let me do git status. Here comes very important point. So as I mentioned, see till now, till like before I execute commit, the changes were only in local and it was added to stage. So your git content and your remote content were same. Okay, now what we did, we committed. What happens when I commit? The changes in stage got pushed to your local repository, which is nothing but .git in our case. So now your local repository git as an update, which is not there in remote. When I say remote, it means GitHub slash maybe GitHub slash Saathwic Infotech slash GitHub series folder. Basically, it's a GitHub series folder. Guys, if you are clear with this, you are done. If you have any doubts, please feel free to comment in the comment section. I can re-explain everything because this is going to be very, very basic stuff which you should know. Okay, because now you will see a different messages now. Okay, now when I give git status, now you know it says your branch is ahead of origin main by one commit. What does this really mean to us? See, until I commit, it says your branch is up to date. Your branch is up to date. Once I commit, okay, it updates the code in our local repository under .git folder. So during the comparison process, it understands there is a change. Okay. So before I do anything, let me go here and refresh it once just to see if I'm seeing my new file. Nothing. Correct? Okay. Now, what it also says, your branch is ahead of origin main by one commit. You use git push to publish yours. Okay. So what should I do? Git push. I'm not going to do anything else apart from like whatever git says. Let's see what it says. Okay. It got pushed to main to main. So now let's see here. Let me quickly refresh this. You see the files here, script added from server. Okay, 3 minutes ago. And it's permanently added. Okay. Now if I again do git status, it will say your branch is up to date. Means again, now if you look at your remote GitHub repository and your local GitHub repository are in sync. So there is no change between them. Guys, I hope I made it very clear till now, because you will get multiple tricky interview questions from these topics. Okay. Okay, there are few more comments which we need to explore on git. Okay, we will explain in detail. Okay, I will be covering it as part of our next day session, tomorrow session. Okay, until then I would highly recommend you guys to practice each and every step and read through each and every messages it displaying on your screen. Okay, so that you will better understand. Okay, till now what we seen is you have committed the change to your main repository directly. See, when I did a commit, it directly gone into my main, which is the default branch here, which is not appropriate to do. Okay, I need to create a branch and do, which all the things we will be seeing in our upcoming session. Until then, thanks. If you feel that this video is really helpful, I would like you guys to subscribe and like the channel. Thanks for watching.